I'm about to share with you how to deal with a toxic boss or a toxic work environment. As a matter of fact, these are 3 different coaches with 3 different insights and perspectives, and I'm sure one of them will resonate with you. So without further ado, let's get started. How would you advise someone? How do they deal with a toxic boss or a toxic work environment?
Sadly, some of our workplaces are not necessarily the best places to work. There are people who just go through some very crazy experiences. And if you can, avoid it. Of course, that might sound oversimplified because how do you avoid your boss? It's not actually easy to avoid your boss. But then if you can avoid the person who's actually toxic, avoid them or minimize the amount of contact that you have with them. Second thing that you need to think about is how can you stay positive? Because in as much as the environment can be really crazy, there's still something that you take out of it. That something could be a colleague who encourages you. That something could be the kind of work that you do and the things that you've actually learned from that role. So it's not everything that's terrible. There's something positive in that role. Choose to focus on the positive. The other thing when you're dealing with toxic environments is always just have your boundaries. Know how much is too much. You know, you can only be shouted at so much. I once had a boss who would lecture you for an hour. Now, can you imagine, Daniela, 1 hour lecture? That's like crazy. It's too much. It's too crazy. It's too intense. So have boundaries. Decide, I cannot sit here for half an hour and just listen to this. I need a break. I need to step away. I need to take some time to just myself and come together. So have your boundaries.
Yes.
Decide if you can or cannot. If you cannot avoid these people, just know how much is too much. And then get a support system. That support system doesn't have to be someone in your department, doesn't have to be somebody in your organization. It can be somebody outside, somebody who sits and listens to you vent. Because when you're going into a workplace where there's just so much, it's pressure, there's cutthroat environment, people are fighting each other, they're undercutting, they're gossiping, they're gaslighting, they're doing all these crazy things, you need a support system. You need somebody who will listen to you and you will vent and they will not judge you and you'll not have to pretend you're okay with this person. That is extremely helpful. And then last but not least, no job is worth your mental health. When all else fails, leave. Now, it might sound harsh. You might have all these questions of, but how will I pay my bills? Who will help me? What if? But no job is worth your mental health. The sad reality is all of us in our jobs are dispensable. Meaning if for some reason today you dropped dead, had a heart attack, were in hospital for the next 3 months, somebody will sit at your desk, somebody will do your job, and the organization will continue.
What advice would you give to someone who either have a toxic boss or a toxic work environment? How do they manage that?
You can't avoid the boss. You can't say, for example, block him from calls and WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
So that introduces a level of stress. But one of the things that you need to do is to not take it personally, because if you take it personally, then every time you meet with him, even your face will show that this is a person that I don't like. You not be able to smile to somebody who you have branded as somebody who is stepping on your toes. So don't take it personally. Then you need to understand that it is not about what you are. It may be that the person is having also anxiety or stress. So, so what we call compassion, you must try to practice compassion to your boss. Then you also need to practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is like you can write a letter, which obviously you are not going to post, and say, boss, I'm very disappointed with the way you deal with me. And this is how I would like you to change, and all these kind of things. What we call manifestation manifesting a boss that is dealing with you properly, because the universe has got a way of giving you what you are asking for.
How would you advise someone who maybe they have a toxic boss, and how would you advise them to deal with that?
One thing I want to say is that I've seen people trying to hip hop jobs because of toxic environment. What I want to say is that a lot of jobs now are toxic. Toxic work environments is what is trending now, because we have a lot of managers who do not have emotional intelligence. They can't manage fast themselves. And the economic situation now in this country, entrepreneurs and managers under extreme pressure, even from the boards, to perform still. And you can't give an excuse of COVID in boardrooms. And so managers were not, even us, we never knew COVID would come. We were still expecting to have our money in the bank. So managers have not learned how to manage themselves. A manager who cannot manage himself, cannot manage pressure, work pressure, and cannot also manage staff. Staff are different. Even for us who are staff, we all have our own shortcomings, but how do they handle you with that shortcoming? Some of us are slow, some of us are fast, some of us are temperers, some of us will think missing a day of work is okay, some will think coming to work late is okay, because msichana wa kazi alienda when you didn't bother to tell the boss. Another one missed work for 2 days, and he was unwell. You should understand. Another one decided to work from home. It's too cold. So what I want to say is that a lot of workplaces now are toxic. The only thing you can do before hip-hopping jobs, and I told one of my coaches yesterday when she called me and she broke down, I told her, you may be jumping from, they say this is the pan to the fire, or from the oil to the fire, or back and forth. I've seen people change jobs and resign in 3 months. Don't run away from your situation. Sit with somebody. It doesn't have to be a career coach, even your own parent. Look for an objective older friend. Tell them about the environment that you're working in. Get practical steps first of being able to cope with the environment. Then do your work. Before you apply for these jobs. Don't just throw. People say, I've applied for 1,000 jobs, and I'm wondering, how did you qualify for 1,000 jobs? That's a story for another day, because you just don't throw CVs all over. Do you know the company culture of the company you're applying to? Have you done your homework? How do they treat their employees? What does social media say about that company? When you go to the interview, and I tell them, ask them that you'd like to see the person who you'll be reporting to. Look at the body language of that person. I once went to an interview, and the body language of the manager, the guy was so beaten down. The guy was so harassed. You could see it you could just see it on his face. And I told myself, I'm here, but I will draw my lines early. I will not allow them to harass me the way they have harassed him. And it worked for me. So again, do you have that mental space? Are you in that mental space to draw boundaries? Because we fail to draw boundaries. And that's why toxic managers take advantage of us.